The library was supposed to be my sanctuary, but Derek found me anyway. Still playing student at 42. His voice cut through the quiet hum of the university medical library. Pathetic. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. I didn't look up from my biochemistry textbook. Around us, actual students, kids young enough to be mine, glanced over with curiosity before quickly looking away. Nobody wanted to witness a middle-aged woman being humiliated by her husband. I have an exam tomorrow, I said quietly, highlighting another passage about protein synthesis. An exam. He laughed, loud enough that the librarian shot us a warning look. You know what I have tomorrow? A board meeting, real work, adult responsibilities. My yellow highlighter trembled slightly in my hand. I steadied it, marking another paragraph about molecular structures. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was highlighting research I'd personally funded through a complex web of anonymous grants, studying at a university whose new medical research wing bore my mother's name, hidden behind enough corporate layers that Derek would never connect the dots. I'm trying to better myself, I said, keeping my voice level. Better yourself? Derek leaned against the table. His expensive suit, paid for with money he thought came from his pharmaceutical executive salary, wrinkling against the edge. Rachel, you're 42 years old. You should be supporting my career, hosting dinners, making connections, not sitting here with these kids pretending you're going to accomplish something meaningful. I let the words wash over me, each one a familiar sting. 7 years of marriage, 7 years of playing the role of the supportive wife who'd given up her career to raise a family we never had. 7 years of pretending I hadn't built Biocore Industries from nothing, turning it into a pharmaceutical empire worth billions. Derek, I said softly, closing my textbook, I really need to study. Study. He practically spat the word. You know what Margaret said at dinner last week? She asked me why I let my wife embarrass herself like this. Going back to school at your age, it reflects poorly on me, Rachel. People think I can't provide for you. Margaret, his boss's wife. The same Margaret who'd worn a necklace to that dinner, a custom piece featuring a rare pink diamond that I'd anonymously donated to a charity auction 3 months ago. The same charity gala where Derek had spent the evening complaining about how his salary wasn't enough to afford such luxuries. I'm sorry you're embarrassed, I said, meaning none of it. Sorry isn't enough. He straightened, adjusting his tie. The tie clip was platinum, engraved with his initials. A gift from me last Christmas, purchased through one of my assistants, so he'd never trace it back to my accounts. I need you to stop this nonsense. Drop out. Focus on being a proper wife. Something in his tone made me look up finally. His face was flushed, not with anger, but with something else, excitement. That same look he got when he thought he'd closed a big deal at work. I have news, he continued, unable to contain himself any longer. Big news. I'm being considered for VP of Research and Development at Novamed Pharmaceuticals. Do you understand what that means? I understood perfectly. Novamed was Biocore's subsidiary, created 5 years ago to handle our clinical trials division. The VP position reported directly to the division president, who reported to the CEO, a woman named Victoria Chen, who existed only on paper and in carefully crafted video conferences. Victoria Chen, whose voice was generated by AI, whose background was an elaborate fiction, whose decisions were all mine. That's wonderful, I said, watching his face light up. Wonderful. Rachel, it's more than wonderful. It's a $3 million salary package, stock options, a corner office. This is what I've been working toward my entire career. He pulled out his phone, showing me an email. The interview is next week. Margaret's husband is putting in a good word. But I need you to be presentable, professional, not some middle-aged college dropout wannabe. I scanned the email quickly. It was from Thomas Garrett, Novamed's current president, a man I'd hired 4 years ago specifically because of his ability to manage difficult personalities and his complete discretion. The email was cordial but non-committal, exactly as it should be. "I'll do whatever you need," I lied smoothly. "Good." He checked his watch. A Patek Philippe I'd bought him for our 5th anniversary, telling him it was a bonus from his company. "I have dinner with the Garretts tonight. Business. You're not invited. Margaret thinks it's better if I come alone, present myself as focused and ambitious." "Of course. Try not to stay here too late. You look tired. Old." He straightened, preparing to leave. "And Rachel, seriously consider what I said about dropping out. A woman your age going back to school. It's sad. Everyone thinks so." He left without waiting for a response, his footsteps echoing through the library. I watched him go, then turned back to my textbook. My phone buzzed silently in my pocket. A text from Thomas Garrett, my actual employee, not Derek's potential boss. He reached out about the VP position, playing along as discussed. "Is it time?" I typed back quickly. "Not yet. Let him get comfortable first." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Another text came through, this time from my lead attorney, Kenji Matsuda. "The contracts are ready, all documentation in place. Board meeting confirmed for next month. Just say the word." I set the phone down and opened my textbook again. Around me, students rustled papers and typed on laptops, completely unaware that the woman Derek had just humiliated was the reason half of them could afford their education. The scholarship program I'd established through anonymous trusts had put 200 students through medical school in the past decade. The biochemistry chapter I was studying covered protein folding mechanisms, specifically the same mechanisms that had been the basis for my breakthrough patent 15 years ago. The patent that had launched Biocore Industries. The patent that Derek would never know existed under my name, my actual name, Rachel Martinez, not Rachel Thornton, the identity I'd assumed when I met Derek. I'd been 35 then, fresh off a brutal divorce from a man who'd tried to steal my company. The legal battle had been vicious, ending only when I'd bought him out for a sum that still made me smile. $5 million for a company now worth $12 billion. But that fight had taught me something valuable. Never again would I let someone close enough to threaten what I'd built. So I'd created Rachel Thornton, a fiction as elaborate as Victoria Chen. A woman with a modest background, a failed career in medical sales, no assets beyond a small inheritance from a grandmother. When I met Derek at a hospital fundraiser, one I'd actually sponsored anonymously, I'd been playing this role for months, testing it, perfecting it. Derek had seemed perfect, ambitious but not greedy, successful but not suspicious, attentive but not possessive. For the first year, I'd almost believed my own fiction, almost convinced myself that maybe this could work, that maybe I could have both a career and a relationship if I just kept them separate enough. But masks slip. His mask, anyway. Mine had stayed firmly in place. The first crack appeared 3 months after our wedding. A small comment about how I should stop working entirely, focus on starting a family. I'd agreed, playing the dutiful wife, secretly relieved to have more time to run my company from my private office, a space Derek had never seen, located in a building he'd never visited, protected by security protocols that would make intelligence agencies jealous. Then came the comments about my age, my appearance, my worth, each one a small cut, building into a death by 1,000 paper cuts. Except I wasn't dying. I was documenting, recording, building a case so airtight that when the time came, there would be no question, no doubt, no escape. "Excuse me?" I looked up. A young woman stood by my table, probably 23, with tired eyes and coffee-stained scrubs. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said hesitantly, but I overheard. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I assured her with a practiced smile. "That man who was here, is he your husband?" I nodded. "He's wrong, you know." She clutched her own biochemistry textbook to her chest. "About you being too old. I think it's amazing that you're back in school. I hope I have that kind of courage when I'm your age." Something genuine broke through my carefully maintained facade. "Thank you. That means more than you know. I'm Claire, by the way, pre-med. This biochemistry class is killing me. Rachel, and protein synthesis is tricky. Want to study together?" Her face lit up. "Really? That would be amazing." We spent the next 2 hours working through the material, and I found myself genuinely enjoying it. Claire was bright, determined, and struggling to pay her tuition through a combination of loans and night shifts at the hospital. She reminded me of myself at that age, before the money, before the success, back when medicine was still pure passion rather than business strategy. "How do you pay for all this?" I asked carefully, already knowing I could help, but needing to understand her situation first. "Barely." She laughed, but there was strain behind it. "Loans mostly. I work at County General 3 nights a week. Sleep is theoretical at this point." "What's your focus?" "Oncology. My mom died from breast cancer when I was 16. I want to be part of finding better treatments, you know? More targeted therapies, fewer side effects." Her eyes shone with a kind of fervor that couldn't be faked. I made a mental note. Claire Richardson, pre-med, oncology focus. By next week, she'd receive notice of a full scholarship from the Martinez Foundation, a grant I'd established years ago. She'd never know the older woman she'd studied with in the library was the reason her student debt had suddenly vanished. "That's a noble goal," I said sincerely. "What about you? Why biochemistry why now? Why at my advanced age?" I smiled to show I wasn't offended. "I worked in pharmaceutical sales years ago, lost myself in marriage, family obligations that never quite materialized. Now I want to finish what I started. Maybe work in research, contribute something meaningful." It wasn't entirely a lie. I had worked in pharmaceutical sales as the CEO of a pharmaceutical company, and I did want to contribute something meaningful. I already was, through dozens of research grants and drug development programs. This degree was simply the final piece, the one credential I'd never gotten, because I'd been too busy building an empire. "Your husband doesn't support it?" "My husband thinks I should focus on supporting his career." Claire's expression hardened. "My mom gave up everything for my dad, her dreams, her education, her identity. When she got sick, he left. Couldn't handle the medical bills or the reality of a wife who wasn't perfect anymore. She died essentially alone, except for me. I swore I'd never let a man define my worth like that." "Smart woman," I said, meaning it. We exchanged numbers before parting ways, and I watched her head toward the bus stop, already pulling out her work scrubs for her night shift. Another text came through on my phone, this time from Yuki Tanaka, my private investigator. Monthly report, ready. Some interesting developments regarding DT's activities. DT, Derek Thornton, my husband of 7 years, whose activities I'd been monitoring with the same attention I gave to quarterly earnings reports. I gathered my books and headed to my car, a 10-year-old Honda Civic that Derek constantly complained about. What he didn't know was that I owned it outright, just like I owned the Mercedes he drove, the house we lived in, and the luxury watch collection he thought he'd earned through his own hard work. The drive home took 20 minutes through Friday evening traffic. Our house, my house, legally owned through a trust Derek had never examined too closely, sat in an exclusive neighborhood where everyone assumed Derek's salary paid the mortgage. In reality, I'd bought it in cash 5 years before we met. I pulled into the garage, noting that Derek's Mercedes was gone. Dinner with the Garretts. I wondered if he'd ordered the most expensive items on the menu, trying to project success he hadn't earned. Thomas would pick up the tab, naturally. Company expense account. My money, in the end. Inside, the house was exactly as I'd left it that morning. Immaculate, professionally cleaned twice a week by a service I paid for through the household account Derek thought was funded by his salary. I set my books on the kitchen counter and headed to the one room in the house that was truly mine, my office. Derek thought it was a craft room, a space where I pursued harmless hobbies like scrapbooking. He'd never actually entered it, never asked to see what I was working on. If he had, he would have found a locked door requiring both a key card and biometric scan. The office beyond was pure business. 3 large monitors, encrypted satellite internet connection, a secure phone line, and filing cabinets containing documentation that could destroy careers or build them, depending on my mood. I logged in and pulled up Yuki's report. Subject: Derek James Thornton, age 47. Employment: Senior Director of Clinical Trials, Novamed Pharmaceuticals, Biocore Industries subsidiary. Salary: $285,000 annually, plus benefits. Actual performance: adequate but unremarkable. The report continued with details I already knew. Derek's work was fine, nothing special, but he took credit for breakthroughs achieved by his team. He'd built a reputation as an innovator by presenting other people's research as his own vision, a practice I'd been documenting for years. But there were new items. Subject: has increased contact with Dr. Jennifer Walsh, lead researcher on the Cardioxin project. Meetings outside of normal business hours documented. Email correspondence suggests personal relationship beyond professional collaboration. I scrolled through attached photos. Derek and Jennifer at a wine bar 2 weeks ago. Derek and Jennifer leaving a hotel 4 days ago. Derek and Jennifer at lunch yesterday. I felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, no betrayal. Just cold calculation. Jennifer Walsh was one of my most brilliant researchers, a woman I'd personally recruited from Johns Hopkins 3 years ago. She was married, 2 kids, dedicated to her work. This complication was unfortunate, but not unexpected. Derek had a type: successful, intelligent women he could use as stepping stones. I pulled up Jennifer's file. Her contract included a strict morality clause regarding relationships with other employees, especially supervisors. Derek's contract had the same clause. Both violations were grounds for immediate termination, but I wasn't ready to pull that trigger yet. Not when Derek was so close to his big interview, so convinced he was about to reach the peak of his career. My phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized the encryption pattern. I answered. Victoria. Thomas Garrett's voice was warm, familiar. He was one of the few people who knew the truth about Victoria Chen, about Rachel Martinez, about the woman behind the empire. Thomas, how was Derek tonight? Insufferable. I heard the smile in his voice. Spent the entire dinner talking about his vision for Novamed, how he'd restructure everything, bring in fresh talent. All ideas stolen from actual reports his team submitted. I recorded everything. Good. And Margaret? Played her part perfectly. Lots of encouragement, lots of praise. She thinks he walks on water, which makes sense, since she has no idea who actually signs her husband's paychecks. The interview? Next Thursday at 2. I've assembled a panel, 3 board members, the CFO, and myself. Standard format. He'll be on his best behavior. And after? Thomas hesitated. Rachel, are you sure about this? I know he's been terrible to you, but the fallout will be significant, industry-wide. People will talk. Let them talk. I'm tired of pretending. When do you want to do this? I thought about Derek's face in the library, his voice calling me pathetic. I thought about Claire Richardson, working night shifts to afford an education. I thought about Jennifer Walsh, brilliant and accomplished, being manipulated by a man who saw her as a tool. After the interview, let him have his moment. Let him think he's won. Then we'll show him what losing actually looks like. You're terrifying, you know that. I prefer thorough. Did the papers come through from Kenji? Signed and notarized. The board is ready for the transition announcement. Victoria Chen's mysterious retirement. The revelation of Biocore's actual leadership structure. It's all in place. Good. I'll be at the board meeting next month in person. Full reveal. Derek will be there too. He just won't know it yet. We talked logistics for another 20 minutes before I hung up. My stomach rumbled, reminding me I hadn't eaten since breakfast. I made myself a simple dinner, pasta with vegetables, nothing fancy, and ate alone at the kitchen counter, my biochemistry notes spread before me. The molecular structures blurred as my mind wandered to the bigger picture. In 1 month, everything would change. Victoria Chen would retire, and Rachel Martinez would step into the light as Biocore Industries' founder and CEO. The press release was already written, the financial statements prepared, the documentation airtight. Derek would be at that board meeting as Novamed's new VP, a position he'd hold for exactly 4 hours before the evidence of his policy violations landed on his desk. The affair with Jennifer, the stolen credit, the expense account irregularities that my forensic accountants had uncovered. But that wasn't the real consequence. The real consequence was that he'd spend the rest of his life knowing he'd been married to the woman who'd built everything he thought he'd earned. The house, the cars, the lifestyle, all of it mine. And he'd treated me like I was worthless. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Dinner running late. Don't wait up. Big things happening. I smiled and texted back. Good luck. I'm proud of you. The lie came easily now. I spent the rest of the evening studying, genuinely absorbed in the material. The exam tomorrow was real, and I intended to ace it. Not because I needed the grade. I'd already published more groundbreaking research than most of my professors, but because finishing what I'd started mattered to me. Around midnight, I heard Derek's car pull into the garage. I was in bed by then, lights off, pretending to sleep. He stumbled slightly coming up the stairs, drunk on success and probably actual alcohol. The bedroom door opened, and I felt him standing there, looking at me in the darkness. Stupid woman, he muttered. just loud enough for me to hear if I'd been awake, playing college student while I'm building an empire. The door closed. He headed to the guest room, where he'd been sleeping more often lately. Giving him space to focus on his career, I'd said, really just making it easier to gather evidence and maintain my own privacy. I opened my eyes in the darkness, staring at the ceiling. 1 month, 30 days. Then Derek Thornton would learn what it meant to underestimate someone. But first, I had an exam to ace. The next morning, I woke at 6. Derek's side of the bed still empty. I dressed carefully in my student clothes. Jeans, a simple sweater, comfortable shoes. The kind of outfit that made me invisible on a college campus. Just another middle-aged woman trying to reclaim lost years. Downstairs, Derek was already at the kitchen counter, immaculate in another expensive suit, typing furiously on his laptop. "Morning," I said quietly, starting the coffee maker. He grunted in response, not looking up. "How was dinner?" "Excellent. Thomas Garrett basically guaranteed me the position. Said I'm exactly what NovaMed needs: vision, leadership, experience." He finally looked up, his face smug. "The interview Thursday is just a formality." "That's wonderful, Derek." "It is." He stood, closing his laptop. "Which is why I need you to be ready. There'll be a company dinner in 2 weeks, spouses included. I need you presentable, professional. Can you manage that?" "Of course." "Good. And Rachel?" He paused at the doorway. "This school thing needs to end. After Thursday, after I get this position, I want you to withdraw. Focus on being a proper executive's wife. Understood?" I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. "Say it." "I'll withdraw from school." "Good girl." He grabbed his briefcase and headed toward the garage. "I'll be late tonight. Another dinner meeting. Networking." The door closed behind him, and I was alone with my thoughts and my coffee. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to my administrative assistant, Margaret Chen. No relation to Victoria Chen, just another layer of my elaborate fiction. "Schedule a meeting with the university dean. I want to endow a new scholarship program. Full ride for non-traditional students, women over 40 returning to education. 50 slots, renewable annually." The response came back within minutes. "Budget allocation, 5 million annually. Approved. Press release? Anonymous donor, as usual." I finished my coffee and gathered my things for the exam. The drive to campus was peaceful. Morning light filtering through trees that were just beginning to turn with autumn color. Students hurried across quads, clutching coffee cups and backpacks, worried about grades and relationships and futures they thought they controlled. I'd been one of them once, 23 years ago. Brilliant, driven, certain I was going to change the world. Then my father's death, the company he'd built crumbling, the vultures circling. I'd fought them all, won, and learned that the world didn't care about your dreams. It cared about your balance sheet. The biochemistry exam was in the large lecture hall, 200 seats filled with students half my age. I found my assigned spot and waited, calm and prepared. The professor, Dr. Sarah Chen. Yes, another Chen. I had a type when it came to aliases. Distributed the exam with practiced efficiency. "You have 3 hours. No talking, no phones. Begin." The questions were exactly what I'd expected, covering everything from basic protein structures to complex enzymatic pathways. I worked through them methodically, drawing molecular diagrams with the precision of someone who'd spent years in actual laboratories, not just textbooks. Around me, students fidgeted and sighed, struggling with concepts I'd been applying in real-world drug development for over a decade. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was taking a test on material I'd literally helped advance through my company's research grants. I finished with an hour to spare but stayed seated, using the time to review my answers. Perfect. No mistakes. The same standard I applied to everything in my life. After submitting my exam, I found Claire in the hallway, looking exhausted. "How did it go?" I asked. "Brutal. I think I failed the entire enzymatic pathways section." She slumped against the wall. "And I have a double shift tonight at the hospital. I can't afford to fail this class, Rachel. I'll lose my scholarship." She wouldn't, actually. The scholarship she thought she had was about to be replaced by a much better one, covering everything including living expenses. But I couldn't tell her that yet. "You probably did better than you think," I assured her. "Want to grab coffee?" "Can't. I have to sleep for a few hours before work. Rain check?" "Absolutely." I watched her trudge toward the parking lot, shoulders bent with exhaustion. Another text went to Margaret Chen. "Claire Richardson, pre-med. Full scholarship starting next semester. Living stipend, book allowance, medical insurance. Make sure it's from the Martinez Foundation, not connected to me directly." "Understood. Anything else?" "Yes. Research every student who took this morning's biochemistry exam. Anyone struggling financially who shows exceptional promise gets an interview for our internship program. Paid, obviously, and generous. You're going to educate the entire medical school at this rate. Would that be so terrible?" No response, which meant Margaret was smiling at her desk, already pulling together the files. I drove home, stopping at a small cafe that made excellent sandwiches, the kind of place Derek would never visit, too simple for his pretensions. I ordered lunch and sat by the window, watching the world go by, feeling completely at peace. My phone rang. Kenji Matsuda, my lead attorney. "Rachel, we need to talk about the Walsh situation." "Go ahead." "She came to me this morning, wants to resign from Biocore. Says she's made a terrible mistake and can't work under these conditions anymore." I set down my sandwich. "Derek?" She didn't say explicitly, but the timeline matches Yuki's reports. She's scared, Rachel. Worried about her career, her reputation, her family. Is she willing to document everything? If we protect her, legally, financially, professionally. I thought about Jennifer Walsh's research, her brilliant work on cardiovascular treatments that could save millions of lives. I thought about her 2 children, her husband, the career she'd built through merit and dedication. And I thought about Derek, using her for his own advancement, caring nothing about the damage he caused. Set up a meeting, tomorrow my private office. Tell her she's not in trouble, Derek is. Tell her we're going to fix this, but I need her full cooperation. And Kenji? Put her on paid leave immediately. Full salary, full benefits. She doesn't have to see Derek again if she doesn't want to. You're going to war. I've been at war for 7 years. Now I'm just winning. After lunch, I headed home to change. Tonight was the university's fundraising gala, and ironically, Derek had insisted I attend, not because he wanted me there, but because he wanted to be seen as community-minded. He told me to wear something simple, not to embarrass him with my college girl phase. What he didn't know was that I was being honored at this gala, the keynote speaker, accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award for philanthropic contributions to medical education. As Victoria Chen, of course. The reclusive benefactor who'd endowed 3 buildings, funded hundreds of scholarships, and bankrolled research programs across multiple disciplines. Derek thought we were attending as guests. In reality, I was the guest of honor, and he'd be in the audience watching Victoria Chen accept an award, never knowing his stupid, pathetic wife was standing right in front of him. I pulled into the garage and found Derek's Mercedes already there, early for him. I grabbed my things and headed inside. Rachel, his voice carried from the living room, excited in a way I rarely heard anymore. Get in here. I found him on the couch, laptop open, champagne already uncorked. Real champagne, the expensive French vintage I kept in the wine cellar. Look at this. He turned the screen toward me. Official offer letter. VP of Research and Development, Novamed Pharmaceuticals. 3 million salary, 5 million in stock options, full benefits package. I told you, Rachel. I told you I was going to make it big. I looked at the letter, formatted on official Biocore Industries letterhead, signed by Thomas Garrett. Every word had been approved by me 3 days ago. That's wonderful, Derek. I'm so proud of you. Proud? He laughed, pouring champagne into 2 glasses. You should be grateful. This changes everything. No more worrying about money. No more living like we're middle class. I'm going to be somebody now. I took the champagne glass, noticing my hand didn't shake at all. You were always somebody. Yeah, well, now everyone else will know it too. He drank deeply, already on his way to drunk. The interview is Thursday, but it's just a formality. Garrett already told me the job is mine. They're announcing it at next month's board meeting. Next month's board meeting. The same meeting where Victoria Chen would retire and I would step into the light. The same meeting where Derek would be sitting in the front row, thinking he'd finally achieved everything he'd worked for. We should celebrate, he continued. That fundraising gala tonight. Let's go, make an appearance. Show people that Derek Thornton is moving up in the world. I already plan to attend, I said carefully. Good. Wear that black dress, the simple one. I don't want you looking like you're trying too hard. These university events are full of pretentious academics. We need to look successful, but not flashy. Of course. He stood, swaying slightly. I'm going to shower and change. This is it, Rachel. This is everything I've been working toward. Finally, people will respect me. He headed upstairs, leaving me alone with my untouched champagne. I poured it down the sink and checked my phone. A text from Thomas. He's insufferable. Please, tell me you're really going through with this. I typed back. See you tonight. Front row. Watch carefully. Another text, this time from Sarah Chen, my actual assistant, who managed Victoria Chen's public appearances. Car will pick you up at 6. Speech is loaded on teleprompter. Board members confirmed in attendance. This is going to be magnificent. I smiled, heading upstairs to prepare. Not the simple black dress Derek had demanded. Something better. Something that would look perfect on stage. Accepting an award for contributions to medical education worth over $200 million. In my closet, hidden behind the simple clothes Derek thought represented my entire wardrobe, was a section he'd never seen. Designer gowns, tailored suits, clothing appropriate for someone of my actual status and wealth. Tonight, I chose emerald green silk, elegant and sophisticated, with diamond earrings and a matching necklace that together cost more than Derek's annual salary. I did my own makeup, hair styled in a way Derek had never seen, polished, professional, powerful. When I looked in the mirror, I saw Victoria Chen looking back, the woman who'd built an empire, who'd changed medicine, who'd helped thousands of students pursue their dreams, the woman Derek thought was pathetic. I changed back into simple clothes before Derek saw me, packing the gown and jewelry in a separate bag. My private car would pick me up at a nearby hotel, where I'd transform before the event. Derek would drive us to the gala, drop me off at the entrance, thinking I was dressed simply as he'd demanded, and never know I'd slip away to become someone else entirely. The deception was elaborate, but I'd been practicing for 7 years. One more night of playing the role of his dismissive, stupid wife. Tomorrow, everything would begin to change. Derek emerged from the bedroom in his tuxedo, looking every inch the successful executive. Ready? Almost. I need to touch up my makeup. Don't take forever. We can't be late. I grabbed my bag and headed to the bathroom, where I'd hidden a simple black dress that met Derek's requirements. I changed quickly, pulled my hair back in a plain style, removed all jewelry. The woman in the mirror looked ordinary, forgettable. Exactly what Derek wanted. Perfect. Let's go, I called out, heading downstairs. Derek looked me over critically. Better, you look appropriate, not trying too hard. The drive to campus took 30 minutes. Derek spent the entire time talking about his new position, his plans, his vision for the company he thought he was about to help run. Every word was about him, his achievements, his dreams. Not once did he ask about my exam. Not once did he ask if I was okay. Not once did he see me as anything more than an accessory to his life. We pulled up to the event center, valets rushing to open doors. The red carpet was already crowded with faculty, donors, and distinguished guests. Go ahead in, Derek said, checking his phone. I need to make a call. Business. Find us good seats. I nodded and headed inside, immediately spotting Sarah Chen waiting by a side entrance. She handed me a different coat check ticket. Your things are in the preparation room upstairs. Car is waiting at the back entrance. 15 minutes. I smiled and headed up a service stairway, my heart pounding with anticipation. In the preparation room, my gown hung ready, makeup artist standing by, hairstylist prepared. 20 minutes later, I looked like Victoria Chen. Powerful, elegant, successful. Everything Derek thought I could never be. The car's ready, Sarah said quietly. We'll enter from the VIP entrance. You'll be backstage until your introduction. Derek Thornton is seated in the 3rd row, center. He has a perfect view. Perfect. We slipped out the back entrance into a waiting car, circling around to the VIP entrance on the opposite side of the building. Campus security waved us through, and I was escorted backstage like the dignitary everyone thought I was. Through a gap in the curtain, I could see the audience filing in. Derek sat where Sarah had said, looking around with barely concealed pride, thinking he belonged here among these people, never knowing the woman he'd called stupid that morning was about to walk on stage as the evening's guest of honor. The dean of the medical school approached me with reverent respect. Miss Chen, it's such an honor. Your contributions to this university have been transformative. We cannot thank you enough. The honor is mine, I said, my voice slightly altered. Victoria Chen had a different accent, a different cadence than Rachel Thornton. Education is the greatest gift we can give. Your speech is ready on the teleprompter, but please feel free to speak from the heart. The lights dimmed. The program began. Awards were given, speeches made, applause rippling through the audience. And then finally, the moment I'd been waiting for. And now, the dean announced, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker and Lifetime Achievement honoree. Her generosity has funded 3 state-of-the-art research facilities, established over 400 full scholarships, and supported countless research programs that have advanced medical science. She is a visionary philanthropist, a tireless advocate for education, and a pioneer in pharmaceutical research. Please welcome Ms. Victoria Chen, founder and CEO of Biocore Industries. The audience rose in standing ovation as I walked onto the stage, the spotlight bright and warm. Through the glare, I could see Derek's face, impressed, interested, completely unaware. I stood at the podium, accepting the Crystal Award, and began to speak. Thank you. This honor is overwhelming, but I must be honest with you. I did not do this alone. Speech continued, each word carefully crafted, each sentence building toward a future Derek couldn't imagine. I talked about the importance of education, about second chances, about the courage it takes to pursue dreams regardless of age or circumstance. I was told once, I said, deviating from the script, looking directly at where Derek sat, that going back to school at 40 was pathetic, that a woman my age should focus on supporting her husband's career rather than pursuing her own dreams. I'm glad I didn't listen. Laughter rippled through the audience. Derek shifted in his seat, probably thinking about the wife he'd said those exact words to just hours ago. Because here's what I've learned. It's never too late to become who you were meant to be. It's never too late to finish what you started. And it's never too late to refuse to let anyone else define your worth. The applause was thunderous. I accepted it with grace, thanked the university, and walked off stage to a final standing ovation. Backstage, Sarah was waiting with a fresh coat. You need to leave now. He's going to come looking for his wife. I changed quickly, transforming back into plain Rachel Thornton, and slipped out the VIP exit. My car dropped me at the front entrance, where I walked in casually, as if I'd been in the restroom. Derek found me within minutes. Where were you? He demanded. You missed the keynote speaker, Victoria Chen, the pharmaceutical CEO. She was incredible, powerful, successful, everything. That's the kind of woman who actually matters in this world. I looked at him, this man who'd spent 7 years tearing me down, and smiled. She sounds amazing. Amazing? She's extraordinary. Biocore Industries is worth billions. She's done more for medical research than anyone in this generation. And she's funny too. Made some joke about going back to school at 40, like it was some kind of triumph instead of sad. Maybe it is a triumph, I said quietly. Don't be ridiculous. People like her don't need to prove anything. She's already successful beyond measure, not like... He trailed off, but the implication was clear. Not like you. We should go, I said. It's late. In the car driving home, Derek couldn't stop talking about Victoria Chen, about her success, her wealth, her power. Every word was a knife he didn't know he was turning in his own chest. That's the kind of woman who deserves respect, he said. Not someone playing college student at 42. You're absolutely right, I agreed. And in 1 month, he would learn exactly how right he was. The night ended with Derek drunk on champagne and success, while I lay in bed reviewing the documentation that would end his career. Everything was in place. The board meeting was scheduled. Victoria Chen's retirement announcement was ready, and Derek Thornton's world was about to collapse in the most spectacular way possible. But first, Thursday's interview. Let him have his moment. Let him think he'd finally made it. The fall would be so much sweeter from the top. Thursday arrived with crystalline clarity, the kind of autumn morning that made everything feel sharper, more defined. I woke early, Derek already gone. He'd left at dawn to prepare for his interview, texting me that he'd be incommunicado all day. Perfect. I had my own preparations to make. At 9 a.m., Jennifer Walsh arrived at my private office, the real one. not the craft room Derek thought I used. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, hands trembling as she accepted the coffee Kenji offered. "Dr. Walsh," I said gently, sitting across from her rather than behind my desk. "Thank you for coming. I know this is difficult. I don't understand." Her voice cracked. "Mr. Matsuda said I wasn't in trouble, but I violated company policy. I had an affair with a supervisor. I should be fired. You're not being fired, but I need you to tell me everything, and I need it documented. Can you do that?" She nodded, tears already forming. "It started 6 months ago. Derek, Mr. Thornton, he said he could help my career, get my research more funding, better lab access. I was stupid. I believed him. My marriage was struggling. I was working 90-hour weeks, and he paid attention to me in a way my husband hadn't in years." "You're not stupid," I said firmly. "You were manipulated by someone who saw your brilliance and decided to exploit it. But I made the choice. I'm responsible. You are. But so is he. And his responsibility is greater because he held power over you. Did he ever explicitly promise career advancement in exchange for the relationship?" She hesitated, then nodded. "He said if I stayed close to him, when he became VP, he'd make me head of the entire research division. He said he had connections, that the job was already his, that I should position myself as his ally." Kenji was recording everything, his face professionally neutral. I felt cold fury building in my chest, but kept my voice calm. "Did you know he's married?" "Yes." Fresh tears. "God, yes. He said his wife was dead weight, that she was stupid and useless, that he was only staying with her out of obligation. He made her sound like a burden." "I see." I stood, walking to the window overlooking the city. "Dr. Walsh, I'm going to tell you something in complete confidence. Can you keep a secret?" "Yes." Derek Thornton's wife is not stupid or useless. In fact, she's the founder and CEO of Biocore Industries. She's been Victoria Chen this entire time, and I'm telling you this because that woman is me. The silence was deafening. I turned to see Jennifer's face, shock replacing tears. You're Victoria Chen." "I'm Rachel Martinez, which is my legal name. Victoria Chen is an alias I created for professional purposes. Derek has no idea. He thinks I'm an unemployed housewife playing college student." "Oh my God." Jennifer's hand covered her mouth. "Oh my God, the things he said about you, the way he talked. I participated in that. I laughed when he made jokes about his pathetic wife. I know. I have it all documented. You're going to destroy me?" "No." I sat back down, looking her directly in the eyes. "I'm going to protect you. Your research is brilliant, Jennifer. Your work on cardiovascular treatments could save millions of lives. I won't let Derek Thornton's manipulation destroy that or you. But I need your full cooperation in documenting his behavior, not just with you, but everything you've witnessed. Why are you helping me? Because I know what it's like to be underestimated by a man who thinks his ambition matters more than your humanity, and because you deserve better than to have your career destroyed by someone else's predatory behavior." We spent 3 hours going through everything. Jennifer documented every promise Derek made, every meeting, every email that suggested quid pro quo. She also revealed something I hadn't known. Derek had been taking credit for her research, presenting her findings as his own vision to upper management. "He told me it was strategic," Jennifer said bitterly, "that if the ideas came from him, they'd get more attention, more funding. He said we'd share the credit eventually, but he needed to establish authority first." "There's a word for that," Kenji said dryly. "Theft." By noon, we had everything we needed. I had Kenji draw up a new contract for Jennifer, promotion to Chief Research Officer, reporting directly to me, significant raise, and a legal protection clause that shielded her from any fallout related to Derek's termination. "This is too generous," she whispered, reading the terms. "It's what you've earned. Your research, your actual contributions, not what Derek promised you, what you genuinely deserve." I stood, offering my hand. "Do we have a deal?" She shook it, tears flowing again, but different ones now. "Thank you. I don't know how to thank you. Finish your cardiovascular research. Change medicine. That's thanks enough." After Jennifer left, I checked my phone. A text from Thomas. "He's here. Interview started. You should see this man's ego." I smiled and texted back, "Record everything." The interview was being conducted in Novamed's main conference room, with 5 panel members, including Thomas. What Derek didn't know was that I was watching via secure video feed from my office, every word being transcribed in real time. "Mr. Thornton," one of the board members began, "tell us why you think you're the right choice for VP of Research and Development." Derek leaned back, confident. "I've spent 15 years in this industry, building relationships, driving innovation, and delivering results. Under my leadership, Novamed's clinical trials have seen remarkable success rates. I've assembled a team of brilliant researchers and guided their work toward commercially viable treatments. Guided their work, not supported, not facilitated, guided, as if their brilliance was somehow his to direct." "Can you give us specific examples?" Thomas asked, his face revealing nothing. "Certainly. The Cardioxin project, for instance. I recognized the potential early on, restructured the research approach, and positioned it for FDA fast-track approval. That was my vision, my strategic planning. Jennifer Walsh's work, her research, her methodology, her breakthrough, all presented as his vision." The interview continued for 90 minutes, Derek growing more confident with each question, clearly believing he was impressing the panel. He talked about his plans for restructuring, his vision for new research directions, his strategy for commercial partnerships. All ideas stolen from actual reports his team had submitted. "One final question," Thomas said. "What's your leadership philosophy regarding work-life balance and supporting your team members' personal growth?" "I believe in results," Derek said smoothly. "I support my team by giving them clear direction and high expectations. As for work-life balance, I think dedicated professionals understand that excellence requires sacrifice. My own wife, for example, understands that my career comes first. She's learned to be supportive rather than demanding." I felt my jaw clench. Learned to be supportive, as if I'd been trained like a dog. "Thank you, Mr. Thornton," Thomas concluded. "We'll be in touch very soon. You'll receive our decision before the board meeting next month." Derek left the building walking on air, immediately texting me, "Nailed it. They loved me. VP position is mine. Dinner tonight to celebrate, somewhere expensive." I texted back, "Congratulations. I'm proud of you." The lie still came easily. That evening, Derek took me to the city's most expensive restaurant, ordering the most expensive wine, the most expensive entrees, holding court about his triumph. "They were impressed," he said, swirling his wine. I could see it in their faces. Thomas Garrett basically told me the job was mine. "This is it, Rachel. This is what I've been working toward my entire life." "I'm happy for you," I said, meaning something entirely different. "You should be. This changes everything for us. Well, for me primarily, but you benefit too. Better house, better cars, better lifestyle. You can finally stop this ridiculous school charade and focus on being the wife of a pharmaceutical executive. About school, I said carefully. I got my exam results back. Perfect score. That's nice. He didn't even look up from his steak. But it doesn't matter now. You're dropping out like we discussed. I need you available for company events, networking dinners. This VP position comes with social obligations. Of course. Good. I'll have my assistant send you a list of appropriate charities for you to volunteer with. Executive wives need to be visible in the right circles. Nothing too demanding, just enough to make me look good. I nodded, taking a sip of wine that cost more per bottle than Claire Richardson made in a week at her hospital job. The contrast wasn't lost on me. Oh, and we need to discuss something else, Derek continued. I'm going to need you to sign some papers. Thomas mentioned that executives' spouses sometimes need to sign confidentiality agreements, conflict of interest disclosures, that sort of thing. Standard procedure. What kind of papers? Legal documents. I haven't seen them yet, but it's routine. You'll sign whatever they send over, obviously. It's just formality. I smiled. Obviously. What Derek didn't know was that those papers were already prepared, but they weren't confidentiality agreements. They were divorce papers, drafted by Kenji with precision that would make a surgeon jealous. Papers that would leave Derek with nothing, based on a prenuptial agreement he'd signed 7 years ago, without reading carefully, thinking he was protecting his assets, when in reality, he'd been protecting mine. The dinner cost $3,000. Derek paid with a credit card linked to an account I funded through his salary. Even his celebration of success was purchased with my money. We drove home in silence, Derek already on his phone, texting colleagues, basking in anticipated glory. I watched the city lights pass by, thinking about the board meeting 3 weeks away. 3 weeks until Derek sat in that conference room, thinking he was about to be celebrated. 3 weeks until I walked in and ended everything. The weeks passed in careful choreography. Derek grew more insufferable with each day, treating me with increasing contempt, now that he believed his success was assured. He stopped coming home most nights, claiming work obligations. I knew he was with Jennifer, except Jennifer was now working from a secured lab I'd arranged, under strict instructions to document any contact Derek attempted. He tried calling her 17 times in those 3 weeks. Each call went to voicemail. Each voicemail was recorded and added to the evidence file. I continued attending classes, studying, learning. My professors were impressed with my dedication. Claire Richardson and I had become genuine friends. She'd received her scholarship notification and had cried in the library, overwhelmed by relief. She never knew the woman sitting across from her had written the check. "Someone believes in me," she'd said, tears streaming. "Some anonymous donor believes I'm worth investing in." "You are," I told her. "Never doubt that." The morning of the board meeting, I woke to find Derek already dressed in his most expensive suit, adjusting his tie with trembling hands. "Big day," he said to his reflection, not to me. "Biggest day of my life." "You'll do great," I said from the bed. "I know." He turned, looking at me with something almost like pity. "I've arranged for you to attend, actually. Spouses are invited to watch from the gallery. Thomas thought it would be nice for you to see your husband's moment of triumph." "How thoughtful. Wear something appropriate, not too flashy. You'll be representing me now." He left without kissing me goodbye, without even a second glance. I heard his Mercedes pull away, the car I'd bought him, and smiled. I dressed carefully in my room after he left. Not the simple clothes he expected, but a tailored Armani suit in charcoal grey, fitted perfectly to project authority and power. Diamond studs in my ears, small, elegant, expensive. Hairstyle sleek and professional. The woman in the mirror was Rachel Martinez, CEO, not Rachel Thornton, dismissed wife. My private car picked me up at 8 a.m., driving me to Biocor's headquarters, a building Derek had visited dozens of times for meetings, never knowing his wife owned every inch of it. Thomas met me in the private executive elevator, grinning. Ready. Beyond ready. He's in the main conference room already, holding court with other executives. Thinks he's about to be celebrated. The board members are all briefed. Jennifer Walsh is here too. We've positioned her in the room for maximum impact. And the papers? On your desk, signed by every board member. The vote was unanimous. Victoria Chen officially retires. Rachel Martinez officially steps into the light. Plus Derek's termination, Jennifer's promotion, and about 17 other agenda items that will reshape this company's public face. We reached the executive floor, and I walked into my office, the real CEO's office, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, walls lined with awards and patents, my name on every single one. Rachel Martinez, founder and CEO, Biocor Industries. My assistant Sarah had laid out the agenda, the documentation, the press release that would go out the moment the meeting concluded. Everything was perfect. He's going to be destroyed, Thomas said quietly. He destroyed himself. I'm just revealing the truth. At 9 a.m., I walked into the boardroom through the executive entrance. The room fell silent as I entered, not because they didn't know me, but because this was the moment everything changed. Derek sat in the front row with other executives, his back to me, chatting animatedly with a colleague. Jennifer Walsh sat across the room, her face carefully neutral when she saw me. She nodded slightly. Ready. I took my seat at the head of the table, the CEO's chair, and waited. Thomas called the meeting to order. Good morning, everyone. Today's board meeting will cover several significant agenda items, beginning with a long-anticipated announcement regarding Biocor's leadership structure. Derek turned in his seat, scanning the room for Victoria Chen, waiting for the mysterious CEO to appear. His eyes passed over me without recognition. Just some woman in a suit, probably an assistant or secretary. As many of you know, Thomas continued, Victoria Chen has led this company with distinction for over a decade. However, Victoria Chen was always intended to be a temporary identity, a shield used during a difficult period of corporate espionage and personal threat. Today, we retire that name and introduce you to the woman behind the vision. Derek was leaning forward now, excited. This was it, the moment he'd see the brilliant, powerful woman he'd praised at the fundraising gala. Ladies and gentlemen, Thomas said, please welcome the founder, owner, and CEO of Biocor Industries, Dr. Rachel Martinez. I stood, and the room erupted in applause. Derek's face went through a series of transformations, confusion, disbelief, shock, horror. He looked at me standing at the head of the table, looked at the nameplate before me, looked at the board members applauding, looked back at me. What? His voice failed him. Good morning, Derek, I said calmly. Thank you all for attending. As Thomas mentioned, I've operated under the name Victoria Chen for security and privacy reasons. But effective today, I'm stepping into my role publicly as myself. Rachel Martinez, founder of this company 12 years ago. This is a joke, Derek said, standing. This is some kind of mistake. No mistake. Please sit down, Mr. Thornton. We have significant business to discuss, including your employment status. My employment? Rachel? What the hell is going on? Dr. Martinez, I corrected. In this building. You'll address me professionally. Please sit down. The room was silent now. Everyone watching Derek process the impossible. His wife, his stupid, pathetic, unemployed wife, standing at the head of the table as CEO of a $12 billion company. You're Victoria Chen, he whispered. You're the gala. That was you. Yes, the company, all of it. You built this? Every inch. But you're nobody. You're my wife. You don't even have a job. I have a job, Derek. I've always had a job. I run this company. I founded it, built it, and grew it into what it is today. The question isn't about my employment. It's about yours. I nodded to Kenji, who stepped forward with a thick folder. Mr. Thornton, this is documentation of policy violations committed during your employment at Novamed, a Biocore subsidiary, including, but not limited to, inappropriate relationships with subordinates, theft of intellectual property from research staff, falsification of contribution reports, and misuse of company resources. Derek's face had gone white. Those are lies. They're documented facts. Dr. Jennifer Walsh has provided a full statement regarding your 6-month affair and your promises of career advancement in exchange for sexual access. She's also documented your theft of her research on the Cardioxin project, which you presented as your own work during your interview for VP. Jennifer stood up from across the room. It's all true, Derek. Every word. You bitch, Derek snarled. You came to me. You wanted it. Sit down, Mr. Thornton, I said coldly. Dr. Walsh is being promoted to Chief Research Officer, reporting directly to me. You are being terminated for cause, effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building. You have 30 minutes to collect personal items from your office under supervision. You can't do this. He was shouting now, drawing stares from everyone in the room. I'm about to be named VP. Thomas, tell her about the job offer. Thomas stood, his face professionally sympathetic. Mr. Thornton, there was never a genuine job offer. The interview was conducted to document your willingness to take credit for others' work and to confirm the pattern of behavior Dr. Martinez's team had been investigating. Every word you said was recorded and reviewed. You fabricated achievements, claimed others' innovations as your own, and demonstrated a fundamental lack of integrity. This is insane. Derek turned to me, his face contorted with rage and disbelief. You've been lying to me for 7 years. 7 years. You let me think I was supporting you, that I was the successful one, that you were nothing. Yes, I said simply. I did. Why? Why would you do this? Because I wanted to see who you really were. When we met, I'd just been through a brutal divorce with a man who tried to steal my company. I was tired of being valued only for my wealth, so I created Rachel Thornton, a woman with no money, no power, no status. And you showed me exactly who you are, Derek. You're a man who only respects people based on what they can do for you. That's not fair. You called me stupid for going back to school. You mocked me in front of your colleagues. You told your mistress I was dead weight. You demanded I give up my education to support your career. A career that only existed because I created the company and hired you through intermediaries. Every success you thought you earned was handed to you by me. The room was deathly quiet. Derek looked around at the board members, at the executives, searching for support and finding none. They all knew. They'd always known. The house we live in, I continued, mine, bought 5 years before we met. The cars, the furniture, the lifestyle you think your salary provided, all mine. Your salary was always modest, Derek. You've been living on my money the entire time, funded through accounts you never questioned. You manipulated me. I gave you every opportunity to show me kindness, respect, partnership. You chose contempt instead. You chose to belittle me, control me, demand I make myself smaller so you could feel bigger. That was your choice, not mine. What about the prenup? His voice was desperate now. We signed a prenup. I get half of everything. You get nothing. The prenup you signed, without reading carefully, I might add, specifies that in cases of infidelity or termination for cause from family-affiliated businesses, all assets remain with the original owner. You violated both conditions. My lawyers have already filed divorce papers. You'll receive them today. Derek's legs seemed to give out. He sat down heavily, his face in his hands. This can't be happening. Security is waiting outside, said. You'll be escorted from the building. Your personal belongings will be sent to the address your attorney provides. You're prohibited from contacting any Biocore employees, including Dr. Walsh. Violation of this order will result in legal action. 2 security officers entered the room. Derek looked up at them, then at me, one final time. I loved you, he said, and for a moment I almost believed him. No, Derek, you loved what you thought you could get from me. You loved having someone you could control. You never loved me. You never even knew me. He stood, straightened his jacket, and walked out between the security officers. The door closed behind him with a soft click. The room stayed silent for a long moment. Then Thomas started clapping, and the rest of the board joined in. Now, I said, settling back into my chair, let's discuss the real agenda. Dr. Walsh, please present your findings on the Cardioxin project. I believe we have an FDA submission to finalize. The meeting continued for 3 hours, covering research updates, financial reports, strategic initiatives. I participated fully, no longer hiding behind Victoria Chen's digital facade. This was me, Rachel Martinez, the woman who'd built all of this. When the meeting finally concluded, Jennifer approached me hesitantly. Thank you, she said quietly, for everything, for believing me, for protecting me. Thank you for being brave enough to come forward. Your research is going to change lives, Jennifer. Don't let what happened with Derek make you doubt that. Can I ask you something? Why didn't you just divorce him years ago? Why go through all this? I considered the question carefully, because I needed to be sure. I needed to document everything, understand everything before I made a move. And honestly, I needed to finish my degree. That biochemistry exam I took, I got a perfect score. I'm graduating next month, finally completing something I started 20 years ago. You're still in school. I enrolled under Rachel Thornton, my married name. Nobody connected it to Rachel Martinez or Victoria Chen. I wanted to learn again, to be a student again, without the pressure of being CEO. Derek thought I was pathetic for it, but I needed it. Jennifer smiled. That's actually beautiful. You took back control of your own narrative. Exactly. Over the next weeks, the story exploded across business media. Victoria Chen's retirement and Rachel Martinez's revelation became front-page news. My face was suddenly everywhere. The reclusive billionaire CEO who'd been hiding in plain sight. Derek hired lawyers, tried to fight the divorce, claimed fraud and manipulation. But the prenup was ironclad. The evidence of his affairs and policy violations overwhelming. The case was settled within a month. He received nothing. No assets, no alimony, nothing but a recommendation that he seek employment far from the pharmaceutical industry. I heard he moved to another city, took a job at a small biotech startup for a fraction of his previous salary. I didn't follow up. He was no longer my concern. Claire Richardson graduated top of her class, accepted a position in Biocor's Oncology Research Division, and cried when she learned that the anonymous scholarship benefactor was her study partner from the library. Jennifer Walsh's cardiovascular research received FDA approval, and the treatment she developed has already saved over 10,000 lives in its first year on the market. And me? I finished my biochemistry degree, walking across the stage at graduation to accept my diploma at age 42. Derek wasn't there to call me pathetic. Nobody was there to tell me I was too old, too stupid, too anything. Just me, finally finishing what I'd started on my own terms. I framed 2 things in my office, my diploma and a photo from the fundraising gala, where I'd accepted the award as Victoria Chen, while Derek sat in the audience, completely unaware. The pharmaceutical company had offered me $10 million once, as an acquisition offer during my early years before they realized I'd never sell. I'd turned it down then, built my company into something worth 100 times that amount. But the real value wasn't the money. It was standing in that boardroom, watching Derek's face as he realized the woman he'd called stupid was actually the brilliant, successful, powerful person he'd claimed to admire, and that he'd lost her through his own arrogance and cruelty. That moment, that recognition, that justice, that was priceless. I run Biocor Industries openly now. No more hiding behind aliases. I fund scholarships for non-traditional students, women returning to education, anyone who's been told they're too old, too late, too anything. And sometimes, when I'm working late in my office, I think about Derek's voice in that library, still playing student at 42, pathetic. I smile, looking at my degree, my patents, my company's latest breakthrough in medical research. Not pathetic, powerful, and finally, authentically, completely myself. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.